doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, I remember that about, geez, what was it, about 16 years ago now?
Yeah, 93.
Yeah.
93.
93, yeah.
April 19th. So, it changed my life. I was sitting on my boat in Miami out fishing in the Gulf Stream with my gold pen rods and reels. And I watched what happened. And I was outraged. I was outraged by what the government did, what the BATF did, what the National Guard did, and how our media, how our press covered that.
Yeah. I think everybody was outraged. Some of us weren't at all surprised. But and there again, a lot of the outrage was directed towards the Branch Davidians because that's how the media played it out. Those that watched it and really looked at it intellectually instead of how they were programmed to look at it, thought it was pretty obvious what was being done, but the media turned it around. That's the biggest problem that I have with the American consciousness is we've been so brainwashed, we no longer have a concept of who the criminal is and who the victim is. And most people fall for the reversal of the criminal and victim, which is being done to us because the people in charge are pretty much the criminals. And they want to make us look like the criminals and make us turn on each other and turn each other in.
That's divide and conquer is the oldest strategy in warfare, and that's exactly what they've been trying to do to. Oh, you're a Republican? Well, I'm a Democrat. You're a conservative? Well, I'm a liberal. And vice versa.
Absolutely. I mean, and it goes with every aspect of being a human, whether it's religion or color or beliefs or political background or even employment. I mean, it's if you're the craft side of a corporation as opposed to the technical side of a corporation, we've been programmed into believing anybody different in any way is the enemy, so that when we are the victims of different aspects of society or we're the victims of the government, we believe each other are the criminals and the government's the victim. And because of that, the government always wins.
They stole our number one cash crop, hemp, in America. $1 billion crop, as Popular Mechanics called it in the 30s. And then they made us, anybody that might have been smoking it, the way they made them into criminals. They did the same thing with the alcohol. They made our grandfathers from who were running their tractors and their Model A's and Model T's on alcohol. They made them into bootleggers and moonshiners. And the press, the William Randolph Hearst out there sitting in the mansion up on the hill there on the coast of California, they're the ones that manipulated the minds of the American people. Now, let me share something with you and with our audience from Jesse Ventura, former Governor Jesse Ventura. He said, we ain't got time to bleed, it's time for the revolution. And he's talking to the elitist. Now, our founding father, Thomas Jefferson, warned us, if you ever allow a private bank to issue your money, the banks and the corporations that spring up around them will leave your children homeless in the land that we conquered. We got million families kicked out of their homes because they couldn't make a job because NAFTA and GATT took their jobs away. And Jesse says this: you control our world. You poisoned the air we breathe, contaminated the water we drink, and copyrighted the food we eat. We fight in your wars, die for your causes, and sacrifice our freedoms to protect you. You've liquidated our savings, destroyed our middle class, and used our tax dollars to bail out your unending greed. We are slaves to your corporations, zombies to your airwaves, servants to your decadence. You've stolen our election, assassinated our leaders, and abolished our rights as basic rights as human beings. You own our property, shipped away our jobs, shredded our unions. You profited off of disaster, destabilized our currency, raised our cost of living. By the way, gasoline's at an all-time high for April. And you've monopolized our freedom, stripped away our education, have almost extinguished our flames. We are hit, we are bleeding, but we ain't got time to bleed. We will bring the giants to their knees, and you will witness our revolution. Your comments, John Stuart. And I'm sorry your website's down, but it'll be back up later, and we'll leave that up for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it's going to be back up. Yeah, I mean, I got to be careful as far as what I say about agreeing or disagreeing to any revolutionary concepts because of the legal situation I'm in. But
this is just a quote. This is just a quote of a governor here. And frankly, I don't believe we're in a revolution. We had our revolution back in 1776. And we are not the revolutionaries. It's the communists in power within our government that have infiltrated our government, the corporations, the corporate state that they've got us in my opinion. But I certainly don't want you, we'll talk about your legal situation later, but I don't want you to make any incriminating statements. You don't even have to agree with me.
Yeah, I really can't. I've got to be careful of that. I mean, I'm sure somebody's even monitoring this program. But see, when you made the comment earlier about them destroying cash crops, and they're really not doing that. That's what people don't. They have a misperception about what is going on. Not a misconception, but a misperception. They have eyes that they do not see. See, they didn't make all the drugs illegal to somehow better the country. Just like we have this sheriff out here named Joe Arpaio.
Yes.
And he is just a horribly evil individual. He's like a mini Hitler. The way he runs this state, the way that even if a judge goes up against him, the judge gets thrown in jail. If anybody in the normal media or any type of underground media goes up against him, they wind up in jail. And we have people disappear all the time. And this whole thing about the illegal immigration thing here, it is really not some way to better the state, and it's not about illegal immigration. It's about him getting rid of the competition. And when the government went through and made so many things illegal, it's not that they didn't want anybody to do the stuff. It's not that they really cared about the country. It's that they were so knee-deep in those markets that they wanted to get rid of the competition. And I don't think anybody that's at least partially awake in America today doubts at all that the CIA makes a great deal of money through the illegal drug markets.
In my book, let me do a quick commercial right now. In my book, Mystery Babylon, The New World Order Unveiled, I take you back 25 years, how I got into this whole battle when I learned that from a Special Forces colonel that was in charge of Operation Watchtower. It ran concurrently with what happened in the Iran-Contra affair. Now, you heard about the Iran-Contra affair, but Operation Watchtower wasn't about supplying arms to the Contras. It was about running 100 plane loads of cocaine out of Colombia into Panama, where the airport was protected by Manuel Noriega. Then the CIA and the Mossad exchanged money and took the drugs and shipped them up to another little protected airport called Mena, Arkansas. And it was protected by the government, who became your next president at the time.
You're obviously talking about Bo, and I know Bo. I used to know him pretty well. I mean, 30 years ago, Bo and Randy Bose. But I mean, that's who I take it for granted you're talking about.
No, I'm not talking about Bo Gritz. I'm talking about Colonel Edward P. Catolo, who was murdered by Mossad agent Michael Harari for revealing the information on Operation Watchtower. But Operation Watchtower is a part of my book, folks. You can buy my book online. All you gotta do is send $20 for PayPal, and I'll send you a copy of the book. We've got the Homeland Security. We've got why they went after Christian identity. We got why they went after the militias, and we've got the whole story of Operation Watchtower, along with the Homeland Security assessment. And also we go back and why did the assessment target Christian identity, folks? So that's all in the book, Mystery Babylon, $20 online, or you can get the hard copy for $35. I'm sorry but I need to do a commercial. Their war on me, John, has been financial. I mean, they tried to kill me and they weren't successful in that. So they tried to kill any corporations I had. They contacted every advertiser. Who's behind that? What do they have to fear from an old biker that happened to publish a good magazine and helped start the militias around the country? What do they got to fear? Why would they be doing that? Why would they be coming after America? I refer to myself as a canary in a coal mine, but I'd appreciate your assessment on that.
Well, it's like the old saying, you nip it in the bud. You don't. It's much easier to handle a seedling than it is to handle a whole backyard of weeds. I have a very large backyard, and if this time of year, it rains very rarely in Phoenix. And right after it rains, if I run out there and I take care of the weeds immediately, then, we're talking, an hour, maybe a couple hours worth of work. Now, if I let those weeds spread, I could lose a whole day, and I've even lost 2 days, and have just a horrid mess to handle. It just makes sense for them to, as they say, nip it in the bud. As soon as anything starts flourishing, you get rid of it before it spreads. And they've learned their lesson time and time and time again over not doing that. There again, we were talking about Branch Davidians in the beginning. They nipped that in the bud. David Koresh was not stockpiling weaponry. He was stockpiling massive and massive amounts of information. There's reports that he had somewhere in the neighborhood of not 3 million bullets, but 3 million pages of research in the church. Now, you're not going to haul that out of there. You're going to burn it down, and you're going to stop it from being disseminated. So it makes sense if you don't consider things like morals and ethics and decency and Christianity and the Constitution, that when you see somebody archiving that much information and that much raw data to be dispersed, of course they're going to burn it to the ground. Irrespective of the human cost, they're not concerned with the human cost. The problem that you get when you're dealing with these people is they're looking at it as how to be more successful in basically achieving plight upon the nation, because the more we hurt, the more they profit. The less rights we have, the more power they have. It's really simple math. You know, there's a concept in law where you have to aggressively assert your rights, and you only have the rights you aggressively assert. So they never went through and, so to say, got rid of our rights. What they did was, and all they had to do, was make it illegal to be aggressive. So if you only have the rights that you aggressively assert, but if you are aggressive to assert your rights, the aggressiveness is the crime, then you can never assert your rights. And once you can't assert your rights, it's the same as not having rights. So they take the easy way out. Why allow ideas to flourish when they can just get rid of the one that spreads the idea? And, I mean, I'm experiencing that in my own life right now. So it just makes sense for them to operate that way.
Well, you know, the way I put it, how they rule us is by consensus. If you go to a town hall meeting and you don't stand up when a politician gets up there and says something that's violating your rights and violating our Constitution, if you don't stand up and say anything, then they consider you part of the consensus. And that's the way they rule.
Yeah, there's actually, President Nixon made a comment about the uncounted masses to make it sound like, you know, very much in accordance with what you're saying, that, you know, most people agree with what he's doing, they just don't say anything. But when you look at who he was really speaking about, the people that didn't say anything, he was actually talking about all the dead people. And he was very correct. Dead people do not argue. He was talking about all the people in all the cemeteries throughout the country. So that is exactly how they look at some aspects of this. And it is because of the requirement that if you don't aggressively assert your rights, then you don't have any. You only have the rights you aggressively assert. Once they made it illegal to be aggressive in any way, shape, or form, and if you look at our society today, any concept of aggressiveness is deemed a criminal act. So, since we only have the rights we aggressively assert, and if we go to be aggressive to assert those rights, the criminal act of being aggressive prohibits us from asserting our rights. There. It's over with. That's all they had to do, and we lost. And people that don't believe that we've already lost, it's already over with for them. You know, when you look at trial setting in our so-called justice system, the people that are part of the system are allowed to commit almost any crime. They can commit perjury, they can destroy evidence, and the law says that they should be sanctioned and punished. But since they granted themselves immunity, when they get caught destroying evidence or lying, nothing happens to them, and they can still move forward on the case. Let me give you a good example. There's a singer named Harry Connick Jr., and his father is a district attorney, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what state he's in.
Louisiana, isn't it? Is it Louisiana?
It very well might be. I think it is actually Louisiana, but I wasn't sure. I think it's New Orleans.
Yeah.
But he has a reputation for being singularly the most corrupt district attorney in the country. And he was recently busted once again for convicting a man that they knew was innocent. They hid blood evidence and other exculpatory evidence to get this man convicted. Well, the man was convicted, and eventually it was discovered that the state hid the evidence that proved he was completely innocent, not involved, and that they knew it. So when he went to sue, the court ruled that because the district attorney's office and Harry Connick Sr. Had immunity, and that they don't normally do this, it wasn't their standard in practice, the falsely convicted man's lawsuit was thrown out. But the man had proven conclusively that Harry Connick Jr. or Harry Connick Sr. had done the same thing to at least 20 other people, most of which were on death row, knowingly and willfully hidden evidence that would prove these people were innocent, and they knew these people were innocent, but still went forward for the conviction to the point where they actually put people they knew were innocent on death row. So he proved conclusively that they were doing it as a standard in practice, but the court didn't allow that evidence to be presented, and because of that, they couldn't establish the concept of standards and practices, so the guy lost the lawsuit. That is not our system. That is the people in the system violating the pretext of the system. So our system is good. The problem is our people in the system are the humanist, the people that have no concept of right and wrong, don't believe in any kind of higher concept or decency or God, if you will. So they're purely humanist. In other words, you can break down types of people into just two very simple categories: believers and non-believers. Now, the problem you get with 90% of the so-called believers are truly non-believers, and 100% of the non-believers are truly non-believers. So you have this small fraction of people that won't do bad things to get ahead, and then this large percentage of the population that will do anything to get ahead. Hence, they get ahead. The old saying that the cream rises to the top, it's just not true. When you go to clean out anything and you use solvents or cleaners or chemicals to clean out gunky stuff, the scum rises to the top. And in American politics or even American corporations, the scum rises to the top. Anybody that's ever had a corporate job, starting out at the bottom and working as some kind of craft or technician or just the actual laborer type concept, will tell you that, working for this corporation, the biggest problem is normally that not the best technician or the best craftsman gets raised in his stature in the corporation. It's the lying, backstabbing, butt-kissing ne'er-do-well that can't do his job, but is willing to do evil against his fellow employees to get the promotion. That's it. That's how the system was not designed, but it's how it functions now, because all of the scum has risen to the top, and scum collects scum.
Now, you mentioned the fact that about Harry Connick's father putting innocent people in jail. And of course, with the drug laws the way they are, I mean, you can pick up somebody off of the street, search them, and find something in their pocket and put them in jail. So we got 1 in every 31 Americans in prison on parole or on probation right now. That's more than any communist country out there, including Red China, that's got 3 times our population. Now, but this is also happening, and this is something that just occurred. My listeners are familiar with this. Mark Taylor was the first kid shot at Columbine. He sued the drug companies because Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris were on pharmaceuticals. And he was picked up, after coming through Arizona to meet me, he was picked up and put in a home, a group home, by a medical company up here, Magellan, I believe is the name of the medical company, and held for a year. His mother couldn't get him out until I got interested, and I got her some attorneys, and we contacted the governor, and we put some information up, and we got him released about 2 weeks ago. But this is happening, and I just put out an email talking about the pharmaceutical companies and the medical establishment putting people in these rest homes, and they tried to do that to me. I had a motorcycle accident, had 3 broken ribs, and they told my family, oh, you need to keep him on these drugs, keep him on this Depakote, and don't let him drive, don't let him go anywhere, don't let him do anything. Make arrangements for long-term care, and they ran up a $750,000 hospital bill for 3 broken ribs. Now, this is not just canary in the coal mine type of thing, but this is happening to older folks all around the country.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, that's the whole concept, that the world financially moves on oil and drugs more than it does anything else. So the people in charge want to get rid of the competition. They're turning food into a drug now through like Monsanto and the few companies involved in the patenting of it, because it's the ultimate in, how would you say, currency. Oil is truly currency, even more now than gold ever was. Drugs is more or less a type of currency. So absolutely, they want everybody on it. I mean, I think 20% of our juvenile population is on some kind of like antidepressant or ADHD drug or mood altering drug. They're going to push drugs just like they push oil. I mean, we're beyond the beginning of the 21st century. We have unlimited ways of producing all kinds of energy from almost nothing. Yet we still use oil and coal as our primary fuel sources. That's insane. And it's evil, but it's very, very beneficial to the people in charge who have monopolies on the oil and the coal and, as you're speaking, the drugs. So it's a matter of control. There's a guy very deeply involved in all this stuff named Ernie Hancock that does Freedom's Phoenix and all this other stuff.
I know Ernie very well. I've known Ernie for years. Yes.
Yeah, Ernie's a great guy. I've known him for quite a long time, and did a lot of help with Freedom's Phoenix and all that. But he's got, I think, the best saying out there to define evil. Evil just won't leave me alone. And that's it. And that's how you can tell all of this stuff is evil. They just won't leave us alone. They want to be in total control of us. So they design a system wherein we've got to run off oil. We've got to buy our food from the stores. We have to have these drugs. And as long as they're in charge of the oil, the food, and the drugs, they don't have to leave us alone. They've got control of us. It is all about control, because with control is power. And it's, whether it's they control the court system so that you can't defend yourself, even when they falsely accuse you. They control the medical system, so if you get injured, they've got you by the short hairs. They either take over your life financially, or you just slowly die. It's all about control. I don't think that's going to change. I don't know that it's ever been any different.
I don't think it's. I don't think. People have asked me over the last 20 years that I've been doing this, promoting the militias, promoting freedom, promoting the tax information, promoting the information about the Federal Reserve being a private bank. It's It just they don't call television programming for nothing. They have to refine the art of slavery to the point the slave don't know they're slave. Now, hang on just a minute. I'm going